One of the steps you're going to need to take to get your cabin plans ready to print is you need to adjust your elevations so that they show up correctly on the workbook. If we were to go over here and look at your elevations, what you're going to see is that they're not centered. You have a whole bunch of extra space around the building. And that's because of the elevation markers, the way that they are laid out on the floor plan. So to fix this, you go to your first floor plan and you'll see you have these elevation markers, and most of you should have started your floor plan down here on this lower left corner where the X is. What you need to do is take these elevation markers and move them and adjust their size so that they show just the cabin itself. And you can overhang it a little bit, like I'm going to leave the distance that this one has, but to do it, we'll just grab that handlebar. I'm going to bring it in about there. Same thing with this one. I'm going to bring it closer, and then I'm also going to shorten it up. Same with this one. Shorten it up first, and then I'll bring it in. If you happen to have trees or bushes or other things like that, those can cause problems with the elevations because they will get in the way of the elevation markers. So you want to make sure that your elevation markers have a clear view to your actual house. Now when we look at these elevations, you'll see they change quite a bit. They show more of just the actual house. What this affects is if we go up here to the top into the workbook and you come down under your elevation sheets, what will happen is it will regenerate the elevation. Now, it may not always change the location of where the drawing is. To fix that, all we have to do is we just click on the drawing itself, right-click, go Drawing Selection Settings, and then when this comes up down here in the bottom, just go ahead and tell the frame's behavior to fit frame to drawing. And what that'll do is that'll change the size so that it's centered around that drawing. And you can move this guy. We'll put it in the center. One of the things that you do not want to try to do is use these handlebars to drag the size of your cabin, because what will happen is it'll change the scale that's located down here. You want these scales to remain the same between the four elevations. If you want to make your elevation larger, you can go back into the drawing selection settings, and when they come up, you can change the drawing scale right here. The way this works is anything this direction is going to be larger, where that's too big. Anything above the default 1/4 of an inch is going to be larger. Anything below is going to be smaller. So if we want to make this larger, a reasonable scale would be 3/8 of an inch equals a foot. You change that, it'll automatically change everything else, and you say, okay, that'll make that one elevation larger. We need to make sure that you do that to all of them so they all match. So right now, this one, use arrow tool, drawing selection settings. I'm going to change my scale to the 3/8, which will match the first one, and I will change it so that the frame fits the drawing, and say OK. Then I can take and remove it into the center. You'll notice what it'll happen is the elevation will read correct. The elevation will be here, the scale will read correctly, and that needs to match, that elevation needs to match all four exterior elevations. So that's how we will adjust the elevations to make them fit the workbook better.